So I guess I have dementia or short-term memory loss because I wanted to make a video about this but forgot about it, and I guess Texas is probably the only state that is the number one furry hater. A new bill introduced by a Texas lawmaker seeks to ban furries in public schools called the Furries Act would ban students from using a litter box, licking themselves, making animal noises, or pretending to be an animal. And this is the picture that Dexerto used for the article, and there were some people saying, leave Melania away from this. And I searched up what Melania was, and it's this character from Fairy Tale. I don't watch Fairy Tale, and also this was pretty new to me, but whatever, I guess. Texas State Representative Stan Gerds introduced the bill in the House on March 13, which bans non-human behavior, quote, in public schools such as barking, meowing, and other animal-like practices that are commonly used by furries. The bill is called the Furries Act, which is also known as a forbidden, unlawful representation of role-playing in education. Wow, they really made that a whole acronym. Under the proposal, students will be banned from using a litter box, licking themselves, making animal noises, or otherwise pretending to be an animal. No distractions, no theatrics, just education. Gerd said in a post on Twitter, I'm not saying X, Texas schools are for educating kids, not indulging in radical trends. Let's keep the focus where it belongs on preparing students for success in life. Now, this is a tweet where the article is talking about go by name of Stan Gerds, and this we even got community noted where it says that these such claims have been repeatedly debunked as hoaxes since 2021. Now, if you guys remember, I did make a video about this furry that did use a litter box in school. So I guess in a way these hoaxes are somewhat real, but I guess not to the extent where these people will literally like act like an animal. I mean, sure, there's these, I guess, other groups of people called otherkin, which I found out from Anthony Padilla, that will legit pretend to act like an animal, which is honestly kind of weird. I mean, in my opinion, I feel like I would be grossed out if I did see a litter box in somebody's house and they said, oh, that's my bathroom, that's where I do my business. I would immediately leave. So this is the paper where it says Texas House of Representatives Stan Gerds, District 17, for immediate release, date March 13, 2025. Representative Stan Gerds filed bill to prevent distracting and unhealthy quote-unquote furry behavior in Texas schools. State Representative Stan Gerds today announced the filing of House Bill 4814, the Furries Act, also known as the Forbidden Unlawful Representation of Role-Playing in Education, which would prohibit the accommodation or allowance of any distracting or unhealthy role-playing behavior commonly associated with the so-called quote-unquote furry subculture inside Texas public schools. The quote-unquote furry movement involves individuals adopting anthropomorphic animal identities, which it is true, often dressing in elaborate costumes and engaging in role-playing activities. Across the country, concerns have been raised that some schools have even provided litter boxes for students identifying as animals. Gerds filed this legislation in response to neighborhood concerns about a furry-related incident in Smithville ISD that was confirmed by the superintendent. Representative Gerds says his legislation ensures this radical and sometimes pursuant, if I'm saying that correctly, prurient behavior is never entertained or tolerated in Texas classrooms. Quote, I can't believe we have to do this, but we cannot allow these types of role-playing distractions to affect our students who are trying to learn or our teachers and administrators who are trying to teach, said Representative Gerds. Quote, we just have to keep this nonsense out of our schools, period. Now let's just think outside of the box, okay? Obviously, when you join the furry fandom, you have an identity. You have like a separate, persona that you portray yourself either online and or in person. Now that part is true, and including the costumes, which is basically a fursuit is basically an animal costume based off of the avatar that you created like by yourself or that you commissioned somebody to do so. A commission is basically where you request an artist to draw something for you. In order to get that art piece, you have to pay the artist to get that art piece. Now, if you guys have seen my videos last year, I have said my opinions about the furry fandom, which are apparently currently hurting the community. It's more of me giving like my criticism or my overall thoughts and opinions. It really isn't meant to hurt the community. It's more just me adding my 2 cents, whether I disagree, most likely disagree of what is happening in the community, what should be like taking action, or if I'm not surprised about this specific change. For example, in the Las Vegas Fur Con that happened last year, it was 21 plus. I mean, that's really no surprise to me. Of course, the furry fandom isn't always sexual, but with how frequent this is and how common it is, like it's not surprising to me that there's an age restriction, whether you're below 18 if you want to go to the furry convention, but you can't because you got to be above the age of requirement to enter, not just like get a ticket, but to also enjoy and enter the convention. And sure, I can understand that there's some people that are bothered with how these kids are, role playing themselves as animals, and that's just like how they act or how they, I guess, represent themselves with their different persona of them being in the furry fandom to just being themselves, yada yada. I guess it could get annoying when you use the term "I'm just being myself" as an excuse for disturbing the peace, but I don't really see this as like a serious issue. Like he's announcing this like it's the bubonic plague or something. I mean, sure, it's annoying. I'll admit that. It's not hurting you. That's another one. I guess the only way that it could make it a concern for these students that are role playing themselves as their persona is if they're using this statement saying, "Oh, we just doing a little bit of trolling," and they just like put E621 on every school computer as a practical joke later on, making this like a permanent ban like in the school. I mean, sure, like porn sites are obviously gonna be banned in the school, but there are some sites that the school like doesn't know. Okay, I mean, there's some that I know like E621, For Affinity, Black Dragon, legit sites that you really shouldn't go, especially if you're below 18. The bill includes practical and obvious exceptions for school mascots, obviously, theatrical performances, and themed dress days. However, it makes clear that classroom disruptions stemming from quote-unquote furry role-playing or the identification as non-human entities will not be tolerated. Representative Gerds acknowledged that the bill is likely to draw opposition from the furry community, but made clear that his office will not entertain theatrics during the legislative process. Quote, "I fully expect the subculture to show up in fully furry vengeance at the committee hearing, obviously," said Gerds. Quote, "But just to be clear, they won't be getting any litter boxes in the Texas Capitol. They'll have to use the regular restrooms like the humans they are." Okay, now that I can understand, where they dress up as an animal, they're role playing as an animal, and they're essentially disturbing the peace, disrupting the classroom, where the class really wants to learn, where they want to pass the class, where they want to boost up a grade and not have to do a parent-teacher conference with these disappointed teachers, and on top of that, worst case scenario, go to summer school because of a bad record. That I can understand, but for you to say that furries use litter boxes as bathrooms, it's just it's a stretch. Okay, now sure, there are some that do use litter boxes, like there's just some that are not really like mentally okay, that really take this furry thing to the extent which I have talked about in a video. I'll leave it in the link in the description. And yes, that is true that the furries will respond with the furry bitches. I'm trying to like stay serious, but I'm just laughing like all the way through and during this recording. But yeah, obviously the furries will respond, or they'll just, I don't know, sleep on this. I guess this is a pretty like goofy situation that like Texas is just its own country, which they have tried to do so, but it's just not gonna happen. Like you're part of the US, you're part of the stars and the United States flag, and on top of that, with this state having the worst drivers in America, like it's basically Frogger and Mario Kart, but with no items. Okay, like once you get hit, you're cooked. So I guess with all that being said, I just wanted to make this short little goofy video about Texas apparently banning furries. I mean, sure, some of the sentences that they said were pretty valid, but overall, I feel like they're just overreacting. And even if they do ban furries in the state of Texas, I feel like they should have kept the same energy to the KKK. Let's just be honest, man. And even if they do ban the KKK, I'll show you some. I'll show you some respect, Texas. And then maybe I'll shake your hand if you ban the Confederate flag altogether. You know, that way I could stop throwing shade on y'all and probably, I don't know, eat a T-bone steak with Creole spice. With all that being said, that's gonna be it for today's video. This again, just a goofy situation with Texas. I'll be seeing you all later. That's gonna be it. This is Wolf Dog Gray, and I'll see you all later. I already said that. See ya.